All right, here's a super light example of how you can use Alloy to push data from your application to NetSuite and use this integration to service all your customers. So in the NetSuite integration, I have one workflow, this NetSuite test workflow. And in here we have 4 blocks. The first one is this API trigger called custom event. This means that we're going to send Alloy data from some application. In this case, I've defined a order created event, and I've actually told Alloy what that data is going to look like. So now, if I just show the sample data, we see an example payload for what that's going to look like, and we'll again be triggering this workflow via API, and now it just knows what data to expect. In the NetSuite, we're using a few lookups along the way here. So for example, we're going to look up the customer information by email address, which again comes from that custom event. So we can map data in using the data selectors to get whatever we need. In this case, we want email, so we'll leave that there. And then eventually, once we've done any lookups that we need, we can create the sales order. So we've chosen that action. We map in the customer ID, which came from that earlier call, and any of those lookups that we need to do. And then we can map in additional fields from either the previous NetSuite blocks or the line items, for example, like price, to get the data flowing all the way down to NetSuite. I also want to highlight just at the bottom here, we do have the ability to do custom fields for NetSuite. So if we go down here, what we can do is actually allow the end user to map into those custom fields. So I'll show you what that looks like here just a sec. First things first, let's go ahead and just run the workflow as is. So I'll go ahead and release the workflow. That makes it available to our customers. Now there's 2 ways that your customers can interact with that workflow. So the first way is using this preview, I'll show using the preview button. So this is the Alloy modal, which is where your customers would enter their credentials. You can see I already have a couple connected, but this is what it would look like for NetSuite. And we can take a look at that in practice. That's something we provide from an SDK. So you can put that right into your application, or you have the option to just generate a one-time use link for any user and copy that and send it to them in email. So if you do it that way, you don't have to do any front-end work in your UI just to get it set up. However, most of our customers end up building some kind of integrations page. So I have this demo application that I've built, and what it has inside of it is all of the integrations that I've released inside my Alloy account. So I've loaded those all up onto the front end of my demo app using the Alloy SDK, and now I can connect to those, and this will show us kind of what your end user would see when they're connecting. So they go ahead and enter their credentials, and once that's done, we can go ahead and run this event. The way that we're going to do that is through the Alloy Run Event API right here. So we'll make a call to this API. I've got that set up in just another tab. So I'm going to go ahead and run the workflow. But what you're putting in here is the event name. So that's the ISB app order created, which we saw in the UI. The user ID, which we have for any given Alloy user. And the data, which is that JSON, which contains all of the order data. So for example, if I paste my order JSON in there, we can see what the full-formed example request would look like. So I just ran that over there in my Postman. So now when I click in to the NetSuite integration, we're going to see that we have an installation, which is a copy of those workflows. And we can also punch into the actual workflow and see the most recent run here, which created a new sales order for $60 in our NetSuite. So now if we pop over to NetSuite and we refresh the page, we should see a new sales order pop up at the top here. Oh, there it is. It's one below the top just because it matches this one, but we have 2 of those from a second ago where we just had 1. So 40 and 41 is the new one. So that's how the simple kind of connection to get a workflow going works. As I mentioned, we do have the ability to do custom fields, so I just want to show how that works. So the way that that works, if you need to do custom fields, is you can enable that from the very bottom of the NetSuite block. And you can make these configurable by users. So let's say you know that you have a piece of data coming in that you wanted to map. For example, you know you want currency to go here, but this customer has a unique requirement for that. Or maybe it was just phone number, let's say that. We can make this field configurable by user, and this will actually give the option to the end user to map in the key wherever they want that data to belong. Now, if we leave both of them a blank and we check this bottom box, that'll allow your end users to map in any number of additional custom fields that they need. So if I show that in the preview modal here, when we hit proceed, we now get a few more options where we can actually type in things like, my custom property 1, and map in any of the data from those previous blocks. So for example, if I wanted to map first name into that field, I can now do that. And if I need additional custom fields, I can map those in as well, just by adding more that I need. Once we're done, we just hit finish, and that's how we can also support custom fields and allow your end users to map those. There's a lot more we can do to make this flexible, but this is just a kind of an overview to get you started moving data from your app to NetSuite.